All right, welcome to the Explainer. Today we're diving into a step in the VA disability claims process that is absolutely critical, but so often overlooked: the VSO assessment. Honestly, this is where a pile of papers becomes a real strategy for your claim. So many of you are in this exact spot. You've done all the heavy lifting. You've gathered your service records, your medical files. You've got this mountain of paperwork sitting in front of you. And then you just stop and think, okay, now what? How in the world do I turn all of this into a claim that actually wins?
Well, this is it. The VSO assessment is that now what step. It's what takes that scattered collection of documents and forges it into a clear, powerful strategy that's built to succeed.
Okay, so let's get right into it. We're going to break down how a veteran service organization, a VSO, takes all your raw evidence and literally builds a structured case from the ground up. I want you to think of this step as the bridge, right? It's the bridge that connects all your hard work preparing your files to the moment you actually submit the claim. A trained VSO representative puts their expert eyes on everything you've gathered, and they create the blueprint for success before your claim ever gets seen by the VA. So what does this expert review actually look like? Let me tell you, it is not just some quick glance at your paperwork. It's a really methodical two-phase process. First, your VSO does a super deep dive, a really comprehensive review of every single record you've got. Then, they follow that up with a detailed, structured interview with you, which is just as important because it fills in all the gaps and helps them understand the real human story behind the documents.
And when I say comprehensive, I really mean it. They are meticulously combing through your DD-214 for every deployment, your service treatment records for every complaint, your current VA and private medical files, and yeah, even looking at old rating decisions to see your entire history with the VA.
And this really gets to the heart of it. An expert review isn't just about confirming what's already there. It's about finding what's missing. It's about spotting connections you might have never seen on your own, like a secondary condition that's being caused by something you're already service-connected for. And all that expert digging leads us to what is, without a doubt, the single most important result of this whole assessment, something called the gap analysis. Your VSO is basically acting like a stress tester for your claim. Their job is to hunt down every single potential weakness, every missing piece of paper, every weak link in the chain of evidence that the VA could possibly use to deny you or give you a low rating. The whole point is to find and fix these issues before you ever file. Here's a classic example of a gap. Maybe your service records are full of notes about knee pain, complaints, visits to sick call, but no doctor has ever actually written down a formal diagnosis like patellofemoral syndrome. A VSO flags that instantly and tells you, hey, step one is we've got to get that official diagnosis. Oh man, this one is a huge reason for denials. You've got proof of a bad knee injury in service, and you have a current diagnosis for arthritis in that same knee. But there's no letter from a doctor saying it's at least as likely as not that the injury caused the arthritis. Your VSO will spot that missing link, the nexus, from a mile away. Right, so this is crucial. Just having a diagnosis isn't enough. Not even close. The VA rates you based on how severe your condition is. So if your records just say back pain, but they don't have specific measurements for your range of motion or details about how often you have debilitating flare-ups, your VSO knows you're heading for a lowball rating. And this is where a VSO's experience is just pure gold. They know from seeing thousands of cases that a condition like PTSD often leads to others: sleep apnea, depression, you name it. So they'll see you're rated for one, and they'll immediately ask if you've been checked for these common secondary problems, potentially uncovering whole new claims you're entitled to. And check this out. This is a perfect illustration of how they track everything. A VSO might build a simple chart just like this one. You can see for the knee condition, the diagnosis is there, the in-service event is there, but whoops, there's no nexus. That's the gap to fix. Tinnitus looks solid, all check marks. But for PTSD, everything's there except enough detail on the severity, which could really hurt the final rating. Okay, so once all those gaps are identified, the VSO shifts gears from analyzing to building. This is where they start to put together that strategic blueprint for your claim. They do this with something called condition mapping. It sounds technical, but it's pretty straightforward. For every single condition you're claiming, they connect it to a specific event in your service records, and this part is so important, to a specific diagnostic code in the VA's rating schedule. Now, this might seem like a small administrative detail, but trust me, it is an absolute game changer. An experienced VSO knows that some injuries can be rated under a few different codes, and choosing the right one can easily be the difference between a 10% and a 40% rating. Just look at this knee injury example. If your biggest problem is that you can't bend your knee very far, your VSO is going to build the evidence to target code 5260. But if the main issue is that your knee is unstable and gives out on you, they'll build the whole case around code 5257. This kind of expertise makes sure your claim gets judged by the rules that best match your actual disability. And all of this work, the deep review, the gap analysis, the condition mapping, it all comes together to form your final winning game plan. So remember where we started this whole conversation? We started with a confusing, disorganized pile of paperwork and, honestly, a lot of uncertainty.
And now, after the assessment, look what you have. A structured, strategic claim where every single piece of evidence has a clear purpose. You've got an action plan to fix the weaknesses, and you're filing with confidence, not just with hope. And if you need any more proof about the power of this kind of expert review, just look at this number. The VFW reports a mind-blowing 90% success rate in catching and correcting errors when they get to review rating decisions. That is the incredible impact of having a pro in your corner.
So I'll leave you with this one last question to think about. Don't let all your hard work gathering evidence go to waste. Is what you have just a collection of documents, or is it a winning strategy? A VSO assessment is the step that turns one into the other.